They said the Whaley House was cursed long before it was ever built. Locals whispered that the ground itself was angry, that the soil had soaked up too much blood to ever rest. But when Thomas Whaley decided to build his dream home there in 1857, he didn't listen. He saw land, opportunity, a perfect foundation. What he didn't see were the shadows still waiting and the warning signs that would soon come too late. The first screams people heard from the Whaley House didn't come from ghosts. They came from a man dying, slowly, painfully, just a few feet from where the front door would later stand. His name was James Robinson, but everyone called him Yankee Jim, a thief sentenced to death by hanging. Only the rope was too short, and his neck didn't break cleanly. They say it took him nearly 45 seconds to die. He clawed at the air, feet scraping the ground, while a crowd watched in silence. And when his body finally went still, the wind stopped too. It was the kind of silence that feels wrong, heavy, like the world holding its breath. Years later, when Thomas Whaley laid the first brick of his home, the locals warned him, "That's the spot where Yankee Jim was hanged." Whaley laughed it off. He didn't believe in ghosts, but he should have. From the moment the Whaley family moved in, the house started to speak. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways. Doors opened when no one was near them. At night, a man's heavy boots would creak across the floors, slow, deliberate, angry. Thomas tried to explain it away. The house was settling, he said. The wood was expanding. Simple physics. But physics doesn't whisper your name in the dark. The first time Anna Whaley, Thomas's wife, saw the figure, she froze. A tall man, shoulders broad, wearing dark clothes. He stood at the top of the stairs, face shadowed. When she gasped, he vanished, like smoke. That night, Thomas remembered the execution again, the place where the man had struggled. And for the first time, he didn't feel proud of his home. He felt watched. Then came the tragedy that would break the family apart forever. Their daughter, Violet. She was just 22 when she married a man who abandoned her only weeks later. The whispers in town were merciless. Heartbroken, humiliated, she returned to the Whaley House. And in 1885, she locked herself in an upstairs room, pressed a revolver to her chest, and pulled the trigger. Her final words were written in a note. "Mad from life's sorrow, I leave this world for the better one." After Violet's death, the house changed. Neighbors said they could hear crying late at night, a woman's sobs echoing through the walls. Visitors reported cold spots where her room used to be, and some swore they could feel her presence, gentle, sad, still waiting for something. But others heard different voices, angrier ones, voices that warned. The house wasn't just haunted anymore. It was trying to tell people something. Years later, when the Whaleys had all passed, new tenants moved in. Each one left quickly. They described whispers that grew louder the longer they stayed. Some claimed to see the figure of a man hanging from the rafters, swinging gently even when there was no breeze. Others heard words that chilled them to the bone. "Leave. Get out. He's still here." It wasn't just fear. It felt like a warning. One visitor in 1938 said she heard a woman's voice whisper in her ear, clear as day, "Don't go downstairs." But she didn't listen. When she reached the bottom step, the floorboards gave way, sending her crashing into the basement. She survived with a broken arm, but later told police, "I should have listened. I know she was trying to protect me." Over time, the Whaley House gained a reputation as one of the most haunted places in America. Ghost hunters, skeptics, and thrill seekers came from everywhere. Some laughed, some ran out screaming, and some left changed forever. One paranormal investigator, Robert James, recorded something that still baffles experts today. While walking through the house late one night, his equipment picked up an EVP, electronic voice phenomena, that repeated a phrase over and over. "We tried to warn them. We tried to warn them." Robert swore no one else was in the room. And when he played the audio back again, he noticed something else beneath the voice. Faint but distinct. the sound of rope tightening. That's when the theory began to spread. What if the spirits inside the Whaley House weren't trying to scare anyone, but to stop something? Several mediums who visited the house described the same sensation, like a hand pulling them back, away from danger. One claimed she felt the spirit of Violet Whaley pleading with her to leave, whispering, "Don't repeat what we did." Another psychic described the energy in the home as panicked, not malevolent, as if trapped souls were desperate to deliver a message that no one could understand. And then came 1960, a night that would change the story forever. The caretaker of the house, a man named William Hurst, decided to stay overnight to prove the hauntings were fake. He brought a cot, a flashlight, and a bottle of whiskey. At 2:37 a.m., something slammed his bedroom door shut. When he tried to open it, it wouldn't budge. From outside, he heard footsteps, slow, dragging like boots scraping the floorboards. Then a voice, not shouting, not whispering, just one clear sentence: "He's coming again." When Hurst finally forced the door open, every window in the room had been sealed shut from the inside. He ran outside, swearing he saw a flicker of firelight through the parlor window, even though there was no fire in the house. The next morning, he quit his job. He told a reporter, "They're not haunting that place, they're guarding it." Later that year, a team of investigators confirmed that the Whaley House had once been built over not just one execution site, but 3. Each one marked by public hangings, each one leaving behind the same eerie stories, screams echoing for days, shadows moving even when the ground was still. So what were the spirits trying to warn people about? Some believe it was a cycle, that violence attracts violence, that the same energy that took Yankee Jim S. life fed on the Whaley's sorrow decades later. And maybe the spirits, trapped in that endless echo, were desperate to stop anyone else from feeding it again, like a house that remembers its pain and tries in its own haunted way to keep more from happening. Others think it's deeper than that the Whaley House isn't cursed, it's aware that every tragedy, every tear, every final breath imprinted itself into the walls. And when people ignore those feelings, the dread, the chill, the voices telling them to turn back, the house reacts. Because maybe the dead can't speak in words we understand. Maybe all they can do is warn. There's one final story that few talk about. A tour guide named Maria, who worked at the Whaley House in the 1990s, said she once heard a child crying in the upstairs hallway. When she turned, she saw a little girl in a white dress staring at her from the end of the corridor. She said, "Sweetheart, are you lost?" The girl shook her head, then whispered, "He's back," and vanished. Maria quit that same week. She said something that still gives me chills. They weren't haunting us. They were trying to warn us that something evil comes and goes through that house, like it owns the place. Even today, people who visit describe an uneasy pull when they step inside, like the air gets thicker, like the house is watching. Tourists report sudden nausea, dizziness, and in some cases, hearing their own name whispered softly behind them. One visitor fainted after hearing what sounded like a gunshot in Violet's room, only to wake up to complete silence. Security footage showed no one else there. The Whaley House doesn't follow the usual pattern of hauntings. Most ghosts repeat memories, loops of pain, tragedy, or unfinished business. But here, it's different. It's responsive. It changes depending on who enters, almost like it chooses who can hear the truth. Think about that for a second. If a place can remember, if energy can carry the pain of every scream, every death, every regret, what happens when it tries to protect the living from repeating that same pain? Would we call it haunted or merciful? Every EVP, every apparition, every whisper inside the Whaley House shares one thread: fear mixed with urgency. The kind that says, "Please, listen before it's too late." And yet, we keep ignoring it. We go there for thrills, for entertainment, to take selfies with the shadows. But what if every flash of a camera blinds someone who's been trying to reach us from the other side? What if in chasing the fear, we're silencing the warning? The Whaley House stands quiet today, open to tourists during daylight hours. But locals say the true activity doesn't start until after dark. Lights flicker, the air grows colder, and if you stand in the courtyard where Yankee Jim took his last breath, you might hear it. That faint, broken gasp of a man trying to breathe through a tightening rope, or a woman crying softly, as if mourning not just her own death, but yours too. Every haunting has a reason. Sometimes it's revenge, sometimes it's grief, and sometimes it's protection. Maybe the spirits of the Whaley House aren't the villains of this story. Maybe they're the only ones still trying to stop it from repeating. When you walk through those doors, remember this: they're not just ghosts, they're witnesses. And witnesses never stop speaking, even if no one listens. Because the truth is, the Whaley House doesn't need you to believe in ghosts. It just needs you to hear them. And if you don't, they'll keep trying, over and over, until someone finally listens.